Have you ever wondered what truly happens inside a narcissist when you finally walk away and never look back? When you're no longer shattered, no longer waiting, no longer trying to prove your worth, but instead you rise, reborn from the wreckage, and begin to shine in a way they never saw coming. In today's video, we'll dive into a hidden corner. They desperately try to keep secret the envy, the hatred, the silent collapse they face when they lose the most valuable thing of all their control over you. You won't just understand them, you'll finally understand why your rebirth is something they can never forgive. Don't miss a single second, because every moment of this video will show you were never weak. You were simply being dragged down by someone terrified of your strength. And if you're on the journey of healing and rediscovering yourself, don't forget to hit subscribe. Turn on the notification bell and walk with us where painful stories become power and every scar becomes a doorway to freedom. When you step out of a narcissist's control, the first thing you receive isn't acknowledgement, it's denial. They simply cannot and will never accept that you've become stronger than they ever imagined. To someone who thrives on hurting others to feel powerful, your independence isn't just a blow. It's a spiritual rebellion they cannot contain. Do you know what truly drives them mad? It's not that you left. It's that you're thriving after you left. You didn't crumble. You didn't beg. You didn't come crawling back, pleading for love from the very person who emotionally drained you. Instead, you chose to rebuild your life, and that very choice makes them feel invisible, powerless, and exposed. A narcissist doesn't just manipulate through actions, they manipulate by making you doubt yourself. They chip away at everything: your confidence, your self-love, your creativity, your resilience. But when you rise above that darkness, you begin to see clearly everything good you have now. It wasn't given to you by them. It was yours all along, hidden beneath the toxic fog of their control and devaluation. And when you succeed, when you smile, that smile isn't just healing. It's a declaration: I survived, I've grown, and I don't need you to be whole. To the narcissist, that is unforgivable. In their mind, you're the used-up supply, and now you're shining without them. They burn with rage. They seethe with envy. They rewrite the narrative, trying to pull you back into the cycle, not out of love, but because they can't bear your freedom. Why can't they leave you alone? Because your growth is a mirror reflecting their failure. While you move forward, they remain stuck, trapped in delusion, unwilling to face the truth that they were never great, never special, and that they were once given something beautiful but destroyed it. The most painful thing for a narcissist isn't your leaving, it's your lack of reaction. In their world where all power is built on emotional manipulation, your silence isn't absence, it's the most radical rejection. No more anger, no more arguing, not even a pleading look or hopeful word. Just one thing: awakened indifference. And in that silence, they start to hear what they've tried to avoid their entire life: the truth. That they are not special. That they were never enough to make you stay. And worse, that they were never who you needed in the first place. In that moment, the admiration you once gave them, the very fuel that inflated their ego, disappears. They're no longer the center, no longer the one pulling your emotional strings. And to a distorted ego, that is a fall no one can rescue them from. So they retaliate not with fists, but with words, with rumors, by painting you as the traitor, the ungrateful one, the not good enough. Why? Because they need a new story, one where they're the victim and you're the villain, just to salvage whatever scraps of dignity they have left. Because if they admit you're happy without them, they'll have to face the truth that they were the source of your misery. And you know what keeps them up at night long after they've discarded you as if you meant nothing. The fact that you're out there radiant, alive, unbothered. Maybe you started a new career, entered a healthy relationship, or found joy in the small things you once sacrificed trying to please them. Every success you achieve after walking away, every laugh, every peaceful sleep, is living proof that they were wrong. That you are valuable, and they were merely a test, not your definition. That's why you must stay vigilant. They may come back, not because they've changed, but because they can't stand that you've left their game. They'll show up with sweet words, displays of remorse, and fake attempts to pull you in. But remember, it's not love. It's a strategy, a calculated move to regain control. And if you fall for it again, they will drain you just as they did before. Do you know what truly haunts a narcissist, even after they toss you aside like you were worthless? It's the fact that you exist brilliantly outside their control. They know what you're achieving now. Even a genuine smile, a job you love, or a relationship where you don't walk on eggshells is proof they never broke you. And that's what they can't forgive. Because if you weren't destroyed by them, then the entire script they wrote about your incompetence, about how you'd never be happy without them, falls apart. That script once put them above you, helped them shift blame, helped them avoid responsibility. But now you're the one writing the story with your life as the pen. And here's the important thing you need to remember. You don't have to prove anything. You don't need to expose them. Don't need revenge. Don't need to make everything black and white. Because your quiet rise is already the loudest declaration I am whole, and I don't need you to be myself. That is the deepest form of revenge, one that doesn't require a single harsh word. That is the most noble victory, not because you defeated them, but because you stopped playing their game altogether. If you've ever fallen into darkness, ever thought you weren't good enough, ever questioned why they couldn't love you the way they promised, then let me say this. You were never wrong. You just loved the wrong person. A person who doesn't know how to love because they've never learned how to love themselves in a healthy way. And when you walk away from that, when you bravely return to yourself, to the trust, the kindness, and the passion you had forgotten, it's not just survival, it's rebirth. One day they'll see you maybe through social media, through mutual friends, through rumors, or simply in the envious gaze of someone who once circled their orbit. They'll see you, calm, confident, living in alignment with your true value. They'll pretend not to care, maybe scoff when your name is mentioned. But behind that mask of indifference, a silent earthquake shakes within. How is that person okay without me? And the answer they can't face is this: because you never needed them to be whole. You were just lost for a while, and they were the wrong chapter in an otherwise beautiful book. But you've turned the page. You're writing a new chapter, one where you are the main character, one where you no longer live under judgment or depend on validation from someone who never saw your true worth. They may try to come back, not out of remorse, but because they hate that you're living without them. They hate that you're happy without them at the center of your world. That's their wounded ego speaking, not love. So don't confuse the two. Don't let sweet words pull you back to the place where your trust, your peace, and your very self were once stripped away. You left not to prove anything to them, but to find yourself again. And if you're at the beginning of that journey, still confused, still hurting, know this: you're on the right path. Don't trade long-term freedom for temporary loneliness. Everything you're building today, every small step, every time you say no to the past, is proof that you are becoming the best version of yourself. What a narcissist will never admit, not to others, and not even to themselves, is that they know you were the best thing that ever happened to them. They know you were the only one who truly tried to understand them, to heal them, to love them, even in their brokenness and toxicity. But instead of gratitude, they chose control. Instead of cherishing you, they chose destruction. Why? Because they don't believe they're worthy of love unless they can manipulate it. And so when you leave and start living in your natural freedom, creativity, and strength, they begin to feel a void that nothing else can fill. Not because you were their only supply, but because you were the only one who truly saw them both in the dark and in the light, and still chose to stay. Until you couldn't anymore. And that is what they can never forgive. You may have felt guilty for leaving. You may have tortured yourself wondering, was I too harsh? Should I have helped them change? But remember this: you were not born to save someone by destroying yourself. And anyone who demands that you sacrifice your own well-being just so they can feel safe, that's not love. That's codependence in disguise. When you chose to walk away, you didn't just break the cycle of control, you forced them to confront their worst fear themselves. There's no one left to blame, no one left to manipulate, no one to reshape reality for them. And in that silence, for the first time in their life, they must face their own voice, one filled with confusion, jealousy, and emptiness. Because they never learned how to love, they only learned how to consume the love others offered. So if today you're living in peace without needing to prove anything, if you're smiling at the little things and feeling proud that you didn't turn back, then congratulations, you've done what so many stay trapped in cycles forever trying to do. You've chosen freedom not through rage, but through understanding, not through revenge, but through release. The truth is, you once loved with your whole heart. You once believed in dreams, painted with sweet words, promises of a future of change, of a better version of them. But time revealed that those dreams were just illusions crafted to make you stay, to make you question yourself every time you thought of leaving. And you paid for it with tears, emotional exhaustion, and countless silent nights asking, was it my fault? No, it was never your fault. It was the consequence of giving your heart to someone who never intended to protect it. Someone who only knew how to take, but never give. Someone who drained your light and then blamed you for no longer shining the way you once did. And now, when you're no longer there to fix, to apologize for things that weren't your fault, to hold together a relationship that only survived because of your one-sided sacrifice, you've given yourself something you once thought you didn't deserve: peace. Peace doesn't arrive overnight. It comes after you've cried yourself dry, after the waves of panic from trying not to text them, after those moments when you have to remind yourself going back isn't a solution. It's a return to a prison you finally escaped. And each small moment you choose to stay with yourself instead of returning to them, that's when you begin to reclaim every shattered piece of your soul. You might still be hurting, still healing, but you're rising. And every step you take toward the light is a direct strike at their illusion that they were irreplaceable, that you couldn't live without them. But here you are living, and more than that, you're truly alive. Maybe you once thought, if I had just been stronger, kinder, more patient, maybe they would have changed. But you know what? That's the illusion anyone who's ever loved a narcissist has planted deep within, because they made you believe the failure was yours, that if only you were good enough, obedient enough, selfless enough, everything would be okay. But the truth is, no one can fill a bottomless void, especially one that is kept empty on purpose. They didn't fail to change because you weren't enough, but because they never intended to change. They didn't learn how to love, they learned how to control. They didn't want healing, they wanted you to stay and suffer with them. And when you said no to that, when you stood up and walked away, you weren't selfish. You were awake. And that awakening, the silent resistance, the maturity without announcement, is what terrifies them most. Because they can no longer manipulate you with sad eyes, sweet words, or sudden bursts of rage. They've lost the key to your mind, and they know it. They know you are now taking slow but steady steps toward a life where you are no longer dependent, no longer needing anyone to validate your worth. And they hate that. They hate that you've become what they fear most, someone they can no longer control. So if today you're still taking your first shaky steps on this healing journey, if you still miss them, still ache for them, still blame yourself for trusting too much, then please be gentle with yourself. Healing is never a straight line, but every time you choose not to go back, every time you place your hand over your heart and say, I deserve better, you are breaking old chains, not with rage, but with noble awakening. Do you see it now? The very things that once hurt you, their cold silence, their cruel dismissals, the words that made you doubt your worth, are now the clearest proof that you were right to walk away. And here's the irony, they know it too. They know that you've seen their true self behind the shiny masks, behind the promises they never intended to keep. And yet you're still here, not just surviving, but thriving. And that, more than anything, fills them with silent rage, envy, and bitterness. Because in their mind, you're not supposed to get better without them. You're not supposed to glow after they tried to dim your light. But you did it, and you didn't have to scream to prove it. Because it is your silence, now, your peaceful gaze, your fearless smile, your untroubled sleep that speaks the loudest, "I have come home to myself." You don't need revenge. You don't need to reclaim justice from their hands. Because the greatest justice, the highest form of revenge, is the fact that you're still here living each day with quiet pride. That you no longer grant them the power to dictate your mood, your worth, or your future. And do you know what happens next? They may continue searching for a new source to drain, a new victim to manipulate. But no one can ever fill the void you left behind. Because you were never just a person, you were a mirror of truth. You were everything they secretly longed for but never had the courage to admit: freedom, raw emotion, and unconditional kindness. Maybe you once got lost in the emotional haze a narcissist created with words as sweet as honey and actions as sharp as blades. Maybe you loved so deeply that you lost yourself. Maybe the pain was so intense you thought you'd never recover. But if you're sitting here now listening to these words with a steadier heartbeat and a clearer mind, then wrap your arms around yourself. Because you have made it through something most people never find the courage to walk away from. You were once stripped of trust, devalued, treated as if you weren't enough. But the truth is, your worth was never diminished. It was merely buried beneath the dust of manipulation and deceit. And now, as you've shaken that dust off, you're starting to see your reflection again and realize you were never weak, never insignificant. You were simply someone who loved a person incapable of appreciation. When you walked away, you didn't just reject a person. You rejected an entire system of toxic control. And in that moment, you opened the door back to yourself. The peace you hold today wasn't a gift from anyone else. It's the well-earned reward for the brave journey you chose to take. And do you know the most powerful part of all? They may still be watching from afar, still pretending not to care, still throwing out passive jabs and sarcastic comments. But deep down, they know you survived. You were reborn, and you've risen far beyond their reach. Don't look back. Don't question the path you're on. Every step you take toward the light strikes a blow to their illusion, and every day you choose peace over chaos is a day you choose you. If something in this video has touched something deep within you, if you see yourself in these words, then give yourself permission to keep healing. Click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and walk with us. Because here, you will not be judged. You will be understood. And most importantly, you will no longer walk alone on the path back to yourself.